You get to sit.
All right.
Hello, thank you all for coming to celebrate with us this afternoon as we induct two new women, Dr. Connie Adler and Elizabeth Ward Saxl, into the Maine Women's Hall of Fame. My name is Gilda Nardone. I'm Executive Director of New Ventures Maine, a program of UMA. And my role today is to keep the process moving smoothly, so I will try to do my best. I want to first express our thanks to everyone who contributed their time and talents for such a successful event this afternoon. I would like to introduce Rayanne Vander Zander, who is president of the BPW Futurama Foundation, and Pam Prue-Curry, oops, okay, I have to remember, thank you, Paul, who is Dean of Bangor UMA and also Acting Dean of UMA's Enrollment Management, to welcome you to the UMA campus and to this event. Thank you.
Welcome, honored guests, friends, and future friends, to the 27th Annual Maine Women's Hall of Fame. The Maine Women's Hall of Fame began in 1990 with BPW Maine, Business and Professional Women. In 1999, BPW Maine Futurama Foundation became a co-sponsor, and it has continued because of dedicated volunteers. I'd like to thank the past BPW past state presidents for the silver tea. I hope everybody got to enjoy some wonderful treats. I would also like to thank all of those who helped to put this on today. Many of you have been involved in BPW for a long time, and I'm sure there is one familiar face that's missing. Sally Ann Parks, who has been the chair of the Maine Women's Hall of Fame for 16 years, left us physically, but is here with us in spirit. I personally went to a class that she gave on parliamentary procedure. Right, parliamentary procedure, yeah. I come out of there with a respect for parliamentary procedure that who would have ever guessed? She was an inspirational woman, and we were all lucky to have known and been able to spend time with her. That being said, she leaves a void in all of us, and she leaves a void in the Futurama Foundation Board of Directors. She was a key person in our organization. I hope that you all enjoy this Hall of Fame, and I really want to thank everybody, the judges, the people who worked on any committee, who really stepped up to the plate to make this happen. It couldn't have happened without everybody stepping up, and I really do thank everyone. Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. Dr. James Connie, our president, is unable to be here today. He's celebrating his anniversary with his wife in Hawaii. So I will not tell you that he sends his regrets, but I will say that he does send his warm regards and his congratulations to this year's inductees. Here at UMA, we're so proud to help sponsor the Maine Women's Hall of Fame. We're delighted to be hosting or co-hosting this event today. I invite you to stop by the Cates Library to see the gallery of former inductees. When I looked through the list of the former inductees, I recognized so many names of women who have done so many wonderful things for the state of Maine, many of whom were really models and mentors for me as I was kind of coming through my career. It's really, really important what you do here. It's really, really important to recognize the achievements of women and to hold them up as models and as possibilities for younger women as they come along. So thank you to all the women who have been involved in making this possible and who work hard to continue the tradition. I'm very proud to be here and to be able to welcome you. So thank you. Welcome.
Letters of congratulation have or will be received for both awardees from our congressional delegation. And I want to recognize in the audience staff from Senator King, Senator Collins, and Congressman Poliquin, Edie Smith from Senator King's office. You're all back in the end there. Patricia Aho from Senator Collins, and Karen Staples from Congressman Poliquin's office. Thank you so much. So as you've already heard, it's a day of mixed feelings for those of us who've been more intimately involved with the Women's Hall of Fame, feelings of both joy and sadness as we honor the legacy of Sally Ann Parks. Sally Ann really was the heart and soul, from my perspective, of this event over many years. I think you all now know that she passed away after a brief illness, and lovely tribute to her is included in the program. I knew Sally Ann over many years, but I did not know that she liked to visit Baxter State Park, which was really a fun learning for me. It's also a special place of mine and my colleague Eloise Vitelli, who is a fellow inductee. I trust that Sally Ann's spirit will be celebrating with us today, along with the other inductees who are no longer physically with us. I would also like to extend my appreciation to the women who stepped up their leadership to ensure that this event would unfold smoothly after Sally Ann's passing. And that includes Judy Abbott, Judith Clark, Marilyn Ladd, Lynn Kapowitz, and Linda Huff. So could we give them a round of appreciation? I'd also like to recognize any former BPW presidents and the Futurama board members who are here. So would you stand and be acknowledged? Thank you. And I also know there's several former inductees in the audience, so would you please rise and be acknowledged? So I would now like to invite the presenters for Dr. Adler to come to the stage.
Great.
And there is water here if you need it.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon. I'm Barbara Leonard, and I am Vice President for Programs of the Maine Health Access Foundation, although this nomination was made in my civilian life. I live in Winslow, and I have worked with Maine Women's Hall of Fame award winner Connie Adler since the mid-1990s, when she became the first medical director of the Maine Breast and Cervical Health Program, which I then directed. I stand here on behalf of the Connie Coalition, which is a big group of colleagues, patients, and friends who nominated Connie for this award. So will the many members of the group who aren't up here on stage with me, but who helped submit letters in support of Connie, raise their hands? Yeah, there's a couple more out there. Thank you. Yes, thank you all. And Connie, we all think you are truly worthy of joining this Hall of Fame. So Connie, thank you. And we'll have you come up in just a moment. Connie has been a devoted physician, a vocal activist on behalf of women and women's health for decades. She's one of the smartest, funniest, most intense and deeply caring people I've ever met. She's a consummate professional and a brilliant, sometimes stinging critic of the status quo, and she's always an advocate for women and girls. I'm not going to say much more. I'll say a little bit after the other two speakers, but I'm going to introduce George Hill, President and CEO of the Maine Family Planning Association, where Connie has served on the board of directors for many years. And George was a driving force behind nominating Connie for this award. And George has promised me, as has the next speaker, who I will introduce after he is done, that they will keep their remarks.
Thank you, Barbara. And thank you for all of the work that you did on the Connie Coalition. And many thanks to the Futurama Foundation for making it possible for us to be here today to recognize not only Connie and Elizabeth, but to remember and honor past inductees of the Maine Women's Hall of Fame. The list is distinguished and includes so many activists whose common cause was to make sure that women have both the right and the means to control their reproductive destinies. The right of a woman to decide when to have children and access to services that enable her to exercise that right is inalienable and should be a given. But that right continues to be attacked, and as a result, the more just the cause, the more likely we are to attract leaders of uncommon quality and commitment. Connie Adler has been and continues to be one such leader. As the first physician to be inducted into the Hall of Fame, she has spent her career not only advocating for women and teens, but serving them through the practice of compassionate, patient-centered medical care on a daily basis in Western Maine since 1992. I could spend my allotted 5 minutes reciting the facts and figures found in Connie's impressive resume. But that case has already been made, and made not just with her resume, but also by the intensely personal testimonials of patients, colleagues, and the fascinating array of co-conspirators working with Connie in their various fields, from criminal justice and law enforcement types to your run-of-the-mill CEO, from state legislators to administrative policymakers, gently but firmly directed by Connie to improve the lives of Maine women and teens. Working with her as I have for more than a decade, it became clear that her service as a medical doctor nourished her passion to speak up on behalf of women and teens whose voices were rarely, if ever, heard. This unique combination made it a no-brainer to invite Connie to join the board of Maine Family Planning 15 years ago, and we were lucky to land her. As our board president from 2010 to 2014, I had the opportunity to work with and observe Connie under a wide range of circumstances. During that time, we faced significant organizational changes focused on how best to deliver family planning care across a state as geographically and economically diverse as Maine is. A native of New York City, Connie's commitment always was to those women who did not have access that was equal to those who lived in other parts of the state, to the women and teens who lived west of I-95, the underserved or the serviceless. It was also during this time that I observed and greatly appreciated Connie's rare quality of partnership. After all, she was my boss, and yet no matter how stressful the situation, no matter how publicly risky the decision that might have been made, we always felt that Connie was beside us or gently leading us, either in person or in spirit. And she did not limit herself to the high-profile activities usually reserved for a board president. She was conscientious in all ways. If Connie said she would do something, no matter how tedious, awkward, or downright unpleasant, she did it. This is not the stuff of headlines. It is the stuff of getting things done, behind the curtain, all in the service of an organization's larger mission. Connie did this, and I cannot tell you how many times, sitting at my table in my office, surrounded by staff, I would say to them how lucky we are to have Connie working with us. My internal stopwatch tells me I'm about 4 minutes into my remarks, so believe me, I could go on, but I'll close my remarks by saying, Connie, we thank you for your years of service to Maine women and teens. Thanks. For your courage to take on controversial causes and for the example you have set by the life you live. We admire you, we respect you, and we love you. Congratulations.
Thank you, George. Mavis Dubord, Vice President for Quality and Patient Safety at Franklin Memorial Hospital, where Connie has been a physician at Franklin Women's Healthcare, Chief of Medical Staff, and a member of the Board of Directors. Mavis.
Good afternoon, everyone. Congratulations, Elizabeth, and of course, Dr. Adler. I was so honored when I was asked to do this, and then I was challenged, like, how do you sum up Connie in 3 to 5 minutes, right? And then I was thinking, you know, how could I say something really powerful, like what she would say to me? And then I thought about, like, what is the driver behind Dr. Adler's passion? I thought and I thought and I thought. I thought maybe it was Mike, but then I thought, no, it's probably not Mike. And then I thought more, and I thought... The passion behind it, yes. We love him. So I tried to think of something, and then it came to me. It's safe. It's safety. That's what drove everything that Dr. Adler did every day. And the reason for that I thought about that, is that she didn't take it for granted that everybody just had plain safety, like many of us may do every day. And so everything that she did in these big accomplishments and the other smaller things that she did every day all had something to do with safety. So as I started to put these thoughts together today, I thought about that word. So you'll kind of see there's a little bit of a theme going through all of this in my 3 to 5 minutes, right? I'll speak of a few. Dr. Adler worked with the Maine Breast and Cervical Health Program to assure that all women would have screening in the otherwise healthcare services that they couldn't afford or couldn't find access to. Her support and her leadership to the family planning services across the state to meet the needs of women and teens is everlasting. The Maine Breast and Cervical Health Program and the family planning are 2 examples of leadership to assure safe access to the basic needs in medical services. But Dr. Adler's work in assurance of safety expands far beyond these basics. She was instrumental to lead several initiatives for screening education around domestic violence. Her work included primary care offices, emergency departments, and law enforcement. Also, making sure that the infrastructure was in place, that once a woman was identified to not be in a safe place, that the services would be available to them so that they could move beyond the trauma of domestic violence and into safety. So you may think we have provided a summary of Dr. Adler's leadership accomplishments, but oh no, she's on her way to Nicaragua now. She's going to organize a women's clinic and develop an ambulance service for the women in this most desolate area that could otherwise not receive safe medical services. So I've shared with you a few examples of Dr. Adler's leadership and her accomplishments, but there is work that I feel was much more impactful for women. Having worked side by side with Dr. Adler for nearly 20 years, I have witnessed compassion, clinical expertise, and an unending desire to support women. And every single day when I witnessed that, in the background of doing that incredibly hard work, this roar of laughter would come from one of the exam rooms. And if any of you in this room have heard Dr. Adler laugh, you know when you hear it. You just know that it's her. So day after day after day, intently listening to the most personal, heart-wrenching stories from women, gaining their trust and guiding them from a place of unhappiness, turmoil, and violence to a place of safety and empowerment. Dr. Adler is a safe ear, ready to listen and providing unending support. So I'll end by summarizing the criteria for this honorable award: significantly impacting the lives of women, and the contributions have enduring value. The answer is yes. Because of my dear friend, Dr. Connie Adler, many women will now be safe. Thank you, and be safe.
Thank you, Mavis. Just a few more little tidbits about Connie. For many years, Connie served as a volunteer physician at the Maria Luisa Ortiz Women's Clinic in Mulucucu, Nicaragua, and served on the board of the clinic's parent organization, the Women's Empowerment Network. In a letter she wrote to seek contributions to that organization, she said, "Please help us share the gifts that we have in abundance for a healthier and more just world." A healthier and more just world. That's what Connie's worked for throughout her life and why we honor her today. I'm pleased to introduce Connie, my mentor and my dear friend.
So Connie, if you would join me up here, though. All right, thank you. So it is my honor to present to you this certificate from BPW Maine and the BPW Maine Futurama Foundation, UMA, and all of us who are part of the Maine Women's Hall of Fame, this certificate today, and invite you to join us in this fabulous group of people. And also this wonderful testament from the congressional record that was presented by Senator King. So,
Nice. Thank you so much.
thank you.
George, yeah, he always. George and I have this problem repeatedly when we follow each other. Thank you so much for this incredible honor. Thank you. It is beyond humbling to be in a hallway with Margaret Chase Smith and others of you who are you inspiring women who pictures are in that hallway. I don't want to sound like the Oscars, so I'm not going to go through all the people I would love to thank, and I couldn't possibly thank all of you sufficiently, but thank you to the selection committee for this, and especially thank you to Barbara and George who came up with this crazy idea of nominating me, and to all of you who wrote letters and of support and for coming today. It means a lot to me to see you here. I am overwhelmed by the recognition and by your presence and by your words. But seeing you here brings me to my first point, which is that we did this together. None of this did I do by myself. It has been my great good luck since arriving in Maine in 1983 to be surrounded by exceptional women and men who want to see justice and health for women. And I didn't realize until you said that that was sort of my theme of what I was thinking of too. But yes, want to see justice and health for women, and those of you who are willing to work your butts off to make that happen. It has been a great privilege and an honor to work with you. Sometimes people and times come together and magic happens. In Farmington in the 90s, we had the right chief of police, a medical community that was open to working together, and a really activated women's community that all worked together to change the discussion about domestic violence. We didn't end the violence, but we reversed that community silence, and we changed some lives. In the breast and cervical health program, it was unique in this state because most states have a public health department. We don't have a public health department outside of Portland, and so we had to go to all corners of the state, but providers all over the state took up the challenge and started doing the pap smears and mammograms for women who otherwise couldn't have gotten them, and we saved some lives. Family planning, Maine Family Planning, has transformed the access to contraception and education in the schools in the state, and taken the teen pregnancy rate. It has plummeted from one of the highest teen pregnancy rates in the country to one of the very lowest teen pregnancy rates in the country through a lot of hard work. I understand that my part in all of this was minuscule, but I'm proud of it nonetheless. And I think all of you ought to be proud for all the amazing work that you did. It's all about the work. Which brings me to my second point, that we cannot for a minute think that we're done. In 1972, when I was marching for abortion rights in Washington, I never thought that in 2016 we'd still be fighting for reproductive rights. But here we are, threatened not only by the loss of abortion rights, but even the ability to obtain contraception is again in question. In 1968, I never thought that in 2016 we'd still be fighting institutionalized racism or the entrenched poverty that we see in this state. And of course, we still have the uninsured. So there is so much work to be done as I retire from my beloved and often my beloved day and often night job, delivering babies, I do plan to take some time to read books that have been lingered too long on my bedside table. But I also resolve to continue with you all in the struggle for social justice in this state and for the ability of Maine women to reach their full potential. Thank you for this very great honor and for all that we've done together. And let's go out there and change the world.
So I would now invite the presenters for Elizabeth Ward Saxl to come up. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Desti Homan Sprague. I have the pleasure of being the Associate Director of the Maine Coalition Against Sexual Assault and of working with Elizabeth Ward Saxl for nearly as long now as I spent in all of high school and college combined. Before I kick off my remarks about Elizabeth, I want to thank you all for being here today. Taking time to celebrate some of the women who have helped to shape Maine is in fact one of the best ways I can think of to spend a Saturday afternoon. This is a really wonderful day. I also want to take a moment to thank and congratulate Dr. Connie Adler. We see you and we recognize you as a vital ally in this work. So, thank you. In addition to nearly 8 years working with Elizabeth, we have together worked with Kara Corshane for 6 years since she joined the team. And Kara and I brought forward together the idea of nominating Elizabeth on behalf of the staff and board. And so we wanted to lead off the remarks today as a team the way we have spent so much of the last half dozen years. Though there are many reasons why Elizabeth is deserving of this nomination, the reality is that there are incredible women all over Maine who are building every day the communities that we want to live in. However, there are a few things that made me feel truly moved and honored to support this particular nomination. There are many people everywhere who are doing good work. There are many people who do the right thing. There are many people who are selfless. However, there are not a great deal of people who, day after day, fight a slog like this, working to end a social construct that has been an accepted and expected part of our culture for millennia. And who always, while they do that, put collaboration ahead of expediency, justice ahead of personal or professional gain, and who tirelessly seek to find common cause and practical, pragmatic solutions that advance our collective work. To do all of that and to couple it with a brilliant strategic mind is truly extraordinary. She also has a damn fine wit and unerring good taste in selecting good staff. It's true. And all of this is really, truly apparent in the example of how she leads our organization. There are many reasons, things that I wanted to talk about, but my experience in the day in and day out is what it looks like to work side by side with her and to partner with her in this effort. Her willingness to promote the success of others, including the people who she works for and who work for her, to honor our expertise, to value teamwork, has created a staff of 9, most of whom were able to be here today. who are each emerging experts as individuals in their areas of work and who are valued also for their contributions to the whole. That's really incredible work to build a team. It's not easily done, and she has shown us the model of how we can mentor and build each other in this way. She's also personally given me the space to try to build up all of the ideas I can dream of, probably more than are strictly speaking good for me. The saying is really true. The strong women are the ones who lift others up. And after all of these years together, I am proud to say it still feels like coming home every day, to come into a workplace where we are lifting each other up as a team.
So each and every day, I feel like there's a time when I look at Elizabeth and I think, that's my boss. And I'm really glad and honored to be able to do so. And it's in small moments like that and countless others, big and small, that led the MICASA board and staff to nominate Elizabeth for the Maine Women's Hall of Fame. We did so without her knowledge, as we knew that she would be mortified if she knew what we were up to. The day we found out her nomination was accepted, we made her a sign because she had said to us when we told her that she was nominated that she was really honored, but we were a little optimistic. And so we made her a sign that she still hangs in her office that said, "You were wrong." Many letters of support accompanied Elizabeth's nomination. In these letters, several of Maine's finest advocates for women and girls, and people generally, commended Elizabeth's reputation as a trusted source who takes an evidence-based approach to sexual violence prevention, victim support, and offender management, and praising her ability to bring people together. Sorry. They all see Elizabeth as we do, as a person who sees the pathway to resolving challenge with grace, intelligence, integrity, and of course, a serious dose of self-effacing humor. As Laura Fortman said, although I'm sure that Elizabeth thinks of herself as a colleague rather than a boss, Elizabeth's actions inspire and motivate her coworkers. She demands excellence of herself and instills the same desire in those who work with her. And that is very true.
That could not be more true.
Laura was not alone in her admiration for Elizabeth. Here's what others said. Senator Angus King: throughout her distinguished career, Elizabeth has been a passionate and tireless advocate of victims of sexual assault, as well as a devoted leader in working to end sexual violence in Maine. Elizabeth truly represents the best of what our state is and strives to be. Senator Ann Haskell said, I have not worked with an advocate who is better prepared with comprehensive, data-driven information relevant to the topic, nor one with any more compassion for victims. In addition, she has exemplary skill in listening to legislators, as well as meeting them where they are in their understanding of the issues. There is not a piece of sexual violence legislation that has been passed during my time in the legislature that she has not been a critical part in crafting. Senator Bill Diamond: Elizabeth is an extraordinary woman who far exceeds all others in terms of initiating and influencing the passage of legislation to benefit, protect, and support women. Lois Galgay-Reckitt, retired Executive Director of Family Crisis Services. Elizabeth has been a dedicated and tenacious advocate for victims of sexual violence in a myriad of arenas in Maine, from law enforcement to corrections. No one has been more articulate in the causes she champions. Sorry, I'm getting a little bit choked up over here. Hormones. Lori Eustack: Elizabeth has the ability to and does facilitate communications between legislators, law enforcement, government agencies, and legal technicians about the needs of women for whom she advocates while wisely treading political waters. Fatuma Hussein, Executive Director of the Immigrant Resource Center of Maine. I met Elizabeth in 2006. Elizabeth mentored me and my very small staff at the time. She was intentional about ensuring that our organization and the people we serve are represented at the policy level, and that our voices become part of everyday discussions around sexual violence in our state. Elizabeth has worked tirelessly to engage us at all levels by supporting leadership and developing capacity. The first order of business was for us to become a member of the Maine Coalition Against Sexual Assault. This is very unique to Maine, and to my knowledge, not something that has happened anywhere else in the nation. Elizabeth is my hero. She would be the one person we could count on. She's taken us to a level I could have never have imagined. She is such an incredible human being with passion, vision, leadership, patience, tolerance, and with a really big heart. She is exactly the kind of person the Maine Women's Hall of Fame should honor. The Elizabeth we see in the office is what others don't get to see. The amazing range of people, populations, and disciplines she supports, serves, and unites around an issue most people don't want to talk about. And that's why we say in our office, much to her chagrin, that's my boss. But she's more than that. She's our hero, too. And next up is Mike Saxl.
All right. Do you want to go next? I'm happy to go. Hi, I'm Mike. I'm a recovering politician. While the projector gets going on, maybe we'll let Marty go first. Should we do that? All right. All right, there we go. That's you. In case you didn't know it, Lizzie, and she's Lizzie to me, she's Elizabeth to others, Liz to some, Lou to a few, but to me she's Lizzie. She has always been destined for greatness. She loves justice, she does mercy, she walks humbly. She has always been destined for greatness. Lizzie, as been said already, does not see herself as others see her. Mostly, she lives with a sense of wonder at the amazing fortune she has had in life and the privilege she has to work with such obviously extraordinary people. This is one of those very uncomfortable times for Lizzie, being the subject of praise. That's the crew. So Lizzie, you'll see, is the little one behind the governor and the other person. So you have to really blow it up to see her. Same with this one. See this one? There's this work that she's been working on for 3-4 years. There she is in the back corner. Really, Lizzie would much rather be weeding her garden or hanging out with her mom, having an après-ski, of course without the skiing. And that's who she is. She does not want to be in front of you all right now at all, but it's too late now. So many thanks to Gilda and to the Women's Hall of Fame and the Maine Business and Professional Women of Maine and the Futurama Foundation for giving us this opportunity to share our appreciation of Lizzie, even if it makes her a bit uncomfortable. It's important for me, as her spouse and as her biggest cheerleader, to make sure that she knows the magnitude of her impact on us individually and the magnitude of her impact on us collectively as a state. I'm sure Lizzie's going to tell you just how lucky she is. She woke up on third base or something like that. And she says every time I talk to her about it, she gets to take credit for the amazing work that you do, and you do, and you do. every day, and the team at Mikasa, of course, as well. She serves on countless roles throughout the state. She loves her work in the Criminal Law Advisory Committee, CLAC to the insiders. She advises legislators like Senator Bill Diamond, who was here earlier today, and Senator Ann Haskell, occasionally a U.S. Senator, a governor, a Chief Justice or two. And Lizzie's deference to her colleagues, of course, is absolutely correct, but it also fails to acknowledge her seminal role in acting as a catalyst in their work. Lizzie began this work 18 years ago when we worked together at the Maine legislature. At that time, it's also important to have a sense of humor in this work because it's hard work. Lizzie began this work 18 years ago, and at that time, the perceptions of sexual violence were very different. Lizzie, indeed all of us, faced extraordinary ignorance that diminished the dignity and basic safety for Maine's women and girls. Working together on legislation to allow unpaid leave for a victim of rape, domestic violence, or stalking, a member of the Criminal Justice Committee, a standing state legislator, said to us during a public hearing that he thought that this legislation would allow women to fake being raped in order to get a day off at the beach. In the next session of the legislature, we were working on eliminating the statute of limitations for victims of rape, child sexual assault. And on the floor of the House, another member said, there are worse things than child sexual assault. Lizzie and I, always trying to find the bright side in everything, we're driving up to Fort Kent and doing a work on domestic violence and sexual assault with our partner, Lois Reckitt, back there, going all around the state talking to advocates and communities. And on the way, we had hours and hours. If you've ever driven to Fort Kent, you know it's hours and hours. And so we were in the car 5, 6, 7 hours, and we spent the entire time trying to think what, in fact, was worse than child sexual assault. We came up with some doozies, but I don't think we have answered that question yet. Thinking about what has been accomplished since those bleak early years, there's a growing awareness of the basic issues of economic, physical, and emotional security of women and girls that has more often become the norm than the occasional outrageous comments that I just highlighted above. Those are now the outliers. But Lizzie would be the first to tell you that the work is not done. Just this session, a misguided legislator suggested at a public hearing that a victim survivor of rape or domestic violence, I'm not sure which it was, might make themselves up to look battered in order to gain advantage in a child custody case. So while much has been accomplished, it is important at occasions like this, and it's important to mark the successes at occasions like this, we still need to remember that the work is not done. Lizzie and her colleagues at Mikasa and Maine Sexual Assault Support Centers have transformed the landscape for victim survivors of rape. The list of legislation they have championed fills the Maine Criminal Code. The role Lizzie has played on boards and commissions has changed public attitudes and the approach law enforcement takes to violence against women. Her written words have been part of the public debate in the U.S. Senate as champions like U.S. Senator Susan Collins work to reauthorize the Violence Against Women Act. And yet few of you know about the less glamorous workaday endeavors that happily engage Lizzie on a daily basis, the work that makes her worthy of today's honor. Her joy stems from the process, perhaps even more than the product. Few know how honored she is to serve on the board of the Criminal Justice Academy. And it's not just the donuts they serve. Really, they do serve donuts, and really, she does love them. But she is humbled by the honor of sitting next to people like Chief Poulin, who have committed their lives to public safety, helping make decisions to shape the face of law enforcement in Maine. She loves attending CLAC meetings, This is the nerdiest thing a lawyer can possibly do. And has annotated and tabbed the Vertigo every edition for the last 20 years, and here's all the editions lined up in her office. And as I wrote this, she was seething to me that somebody stole her last edition of the Vertigo. And I assured her that I'm pretty sure that it held more value for her than for others, but perhaps one of you has it. If you do, you can leave it quietly in my office, and I'll get it back to her. She loves sitting quietly in the back of the committee during work sessions, listening as legislators bring their own experience to bear on the policy they are grappling with, happy to learn from the debate and to venture an opinion only when she is asked to participate. Senator Haskell, in her endorsement of her nomination, made this attribute so clear that this is a very unique thing in the Maine lobby, allowing a legislator to give them the time they need to marinate and to think about public policy and not injecting herself into a debate in an overeager manner as her husband might do on occasion. Lizzie loves spreadsheets. She loves projecting the budgets for her organization and scheming, and I did say scheming, to think about how she can find new resources to better help support the centers. Or she thinks of them, the people doing the hard work every day. In the last year, Lizzie has continued to lead MECASA through extraordinary growth and transition. The once small office where she worked alone has tripled in size over the last year. Children's advocacy centers have become a seamless part of MECASA's mission. Think about what has happened in MECASA in recent history. New immigrants have a permanent seat at the table. There's an open door policy for Maine's Native American community and their coalition, and they're an important part of the service teams that they support throughout the state. Tools are in place to provide information in numerous languages. MECASA's curriculum is integrated with school outreach programs. Safe places have been created to support Maine's LGBTQ communities. A team is dedicated to provide resources and respond to sex trafficking and exploitation. The Backbone Zone engages the public in promoting personal safety, and the list goes on and on. This little agency that began with Lizzie, nervous about learning how to use Excel, true, and to defend existing funding sources at the legislature, has blossomed into an important funder, partner, and component of all the work of Maine's sexual assault support centers and the legal service organizations of Maine. We all know that change happens one person at a time. Person-to-person diplomacy bridges gaps of fear and ignorance. It injects basic humanity into dialogue. It provides context for individuals to frame their understanding. Lizzie has been a change agent in her efforts to end sexual violence in Maine. I am in awe of her ability to bring people together and her patience, at giving people the room they need to grow and change. Her work has made us all safer and has made Maine a better place. Thank you very much.
I think we should leave it up.
She should stay up? Okay.
Yeah, why not? Are we good? All right, what I just learned is you should never follow Mike Saxl. Should have gone first. Good afternoon. My name is Marty McIntyre. I'm the Executive Director of Sexual Assault Prevention and Response Services, which covers Androscoggin, Oxford, and Franklin County. I'm also a member of the Board of Directors of the Maine Coalition Against Sexual Assault and have served in both capacities since, 1984. When I think about the day that we hired Elizabeth Ward as the Executive Director of MECASA, I would like to just burst into singing "Oh Happy Day." At the time, we knew we hired a woman who was smart, thoughtful, creative, and who came with extensive legislative experience working as an aide for someone named Representative Mike Saxl. We really had no idea at the time what she would become and how she would change the state of Maine relevant to sexual assault. It's my great pleasure to share with you some of that today, although Mike already talked about some of it. The work that Elizabeth has done is well known among staffs at Maine sexual assault crisis and support centers, among legislators, among policymakers, and among staffs at agencies and organizations with whom she's collaborated. And while her work is felt by the people affected by sexual violence, they probably do not know how much of what is currently available to them is due to the work of Elizabeth Ward Saxl. A person who is sexually assaulted knows that there is a specially trained advocate with them at the hospital to help them through the medical procedure and the collection of evidence. They know that there's a specially trained sexual assault forensic examiner there to conduct a forensically sound examination and do it in a compassionate manner. They know that there's an advocate who will help them talk to law enforcement, who can help them get a protection order, and who can accompany them and support them through all parts of the criminal and civil legal justice system. They know there's a helpline they can call 24 hours a day. They know there are support groups which can connect them with other survivors, and they know that there are people available to help them in their healing journey. What we know is that those services are available because of the work of Elizabeth. She works tirelessly to secure funding for our sexual assault crisis and support centers, and has led the way in developing and monitoring quality assurance standards for all the work being done by those agencies. She's been instrumental in development and support of the Sexual Assault Forensic Examiner program, strengthening its foundation and helping to secure its ongoing growth and expansion through the state of Maine. When a person is sexually assaulted and is LGBTQ or an elder or a Native American or a refugee, an immigrant, they know there are now culturally relevant services available to them in their communities who understand their specific issues and can respond in a meaningful way. What we know is that the focus on developing and providing those specific services has been because of Elizabeth's commitment to make sure that Maine understands those unique needs, has relevant services in place, and has secured the funding to support those services. When a person discloses that they are a victim of human trafficking, they know that they are receiving a much more informed response and have access to a greater array of services. What we know is that the focus on human trafficking and the efforts to create awareness and effective response are due to the efforts that Elizabeth and Mikasa have made on the state and local level. She has supported the creation of Maine STEN, Maine's Sex Trafficking and Exploitation Network, and has been a leader in focusing the state on this issue through the Attorney General's Task Force and local Human Trafficking Task Force. When a child discloses sexual abuse, they know that they can be interviewed about that abuse in a child-friendly environment by a specially trained forensic interviewer at one of Maine's 3 child advocacy centers. During that interview, the people who need the information, typically law enforcement and DHHS, can watch the interview via closed-circuit television and make sure they are getting the information they need in that one interview. The child knows that they will probably only have to tell about their horrific experience one time instead of possibly having to repeat the story over and over again. The non-offending caregiver knows that they're going to receive support and assistance and information and help with a variety of issues to help them better protect their child and provide support for that child. Prosecutors know that these interviews can more often facilitate successful disposition of the case. What we know is that the development of child advocacy centers in Maine, 3 currently in place and 4 in development, and the acceptance of this model by DHHS, law enforcement, and prosecutors is because of Elizabeth's work and commitment to ensuring best practice for child victims. Elizabeth took on the task of creating and staffing the Maine network of children's advocacy centers, which not only has helped to secure funding for those services, but also advocates with policymakers. It's a huge change in the way we do business in Maine, and Elizabeth has been tireless in making sure that happens. When it became clear in 2008 or 2009 that Maine was going to change the way it allocated money to begin awarding its money on a public health district, Elizabeth led the way in encouraging and supporting the sexual assault crisis and support centers to do the necessary work to align themselves with that model. In my neck of the woods, it meant working toward merging 3 well-established community-based centers, one in each of Oxford, Franklin, and Androscoggin counties, into one center providing services in each of the counties. As you might imagine, this was a careful, deliberate, and at times painful process. And there was more than once that I was really mad at Elizabeth for pushing us to do this. And she understood the pain and the challenge and became my sounding board, and still, steadily and with clear vision, nudged us forward, sometimes nipping at my heels, resulting in a successful merger which allowed us to apply for and secure the funding, but more importantly, to maintain the staff and programming in all 3 counties. It's impossible to convey to you the many ways in which Elizabeth and her work have made a difference for people affected by sexual violence in all its forms. She has worked collaboratively across the years to bring the issue of sexual violence to policy tables that would not previously have considered its relevance, and to create victim-centered public policies. She looks for ways to create partnerships, to engage more people in improving the world of people affected by sexual violence. And since she can't possibly do this all by herself, although she does a lot of it, she has hired an incredible staff who are encouraged to develop and expand their own expertise and contributions to the work. There is no ego in Elizabeth's work, and she is more comfortable sharing and honoring the accomplishments of her staff than having any attention focused on her. Above all, Elizabeth does this work with the highest degree of integrity, which is the value that I hold most dear. She's a joy to work with and someone on whom I rely greatly. It is truly rewarding to see Elizabeth recognized with this award for work that is hard to do and which makes such a difference to so many. It is my greatest honor to see Elizabeth accept this award today.
Come up. So Elizabeth, on behalf of BPW Maine and the Futurama Foundation and the University of Maine at Augusta, we're happy to present this award to you today, and also this wonderful congressional record from Senator King.
Very fancy.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jill. Dr. Adler was very disciplined in not turning her remarks into the Oscars thank you list. But for those who know me well, they know that that is my whole approach to public speaking. Fill up as much time thanking people and then maybe squeeze a little here and there in thoughts that I have. So here we go with the thank you list. Many thanks to the Maine Business and Professional Women and the Futurama Foundation, and to their commitment in supporting women helping women. And congratulations to Dr. Adler, and thanks for her work in violence against women and reproductive rights, and particularly from our perspective, her work with Franklin County's Sexual Assault Support Center, and helping them in the early days there. And thank you, friends, for the kind words of introduction. Left me off kilter, I have to say. So it's an extraordinary honor to receive this award, but respectfully, it's an even greater honor that Mikasa's staff and board and my statewide colleagues, who are an extraordinary group of people, as I think you have just seen, and who work with me day in and day out, took the initiative and time to nominate me. It's deeply humbling, it's reaffirming, and it's re-energizing. The concept of on the shoulders of giants has always resonated with me. I feel it so acutely working in the field of sexual violence. As hard as this work can be, the hardest work, the groundbreaking work, has already been done for us by giants. Many of those giants still walk among us, some whose pictures hang on the walls outside, the rest who should. Women like Laura Fortman, like Lois Reckitt, like Marty McIntyre, and others, women who began this work at kitchen tables or with a single phone at a desk in a hospital, when it was legal to rape your wife in Maine, when no one believed victims, when no one wanted to help anyone. These women painstakingly built a network of life-changing services. They raised awareness, and they changed history's trajectory. During those same years, there were also many giants who faced adversity creating spaces for women in men's domains, like my mother, Marianne Ward, in academia, or my mother-in-law, Jane Saxl, in politics, or my aunt, Terry Kavanaugh, a U.S. trustee. They knew then, as we know now, that improving the lives of women and girls and pursuing public service are inextricably linked. Thank you to the giants. Today, on the shoulders of those and many other giants, the work of ending sexual violence and supporting victims and survivors of these life-altering crimes is not done alone or in small, marginalized groups, but in community. Reading my nomination packet was a moving experience and a reminder of a range of work of which I am proud. But not a single accomplishment on the list was of my doing alone. One of the many things that I love about this work is the excuse to collaborate with the many partners who are passionate about their work and who bring so much to the table. Many of you are in the room today. My core partners are Micasa's fabulous staff, each so unique, all smart, creative, a ton of fun to work with. They are doing meaningful work, supporting the prevention of sexual violence and the provision of high-quality services for victims and survivors. Just a few of those efforts include, and you've heard about some of them, improving the response to marginalized and underserved victims, such as people experiencing sex trafficking or LGBTQ plus victims, supporting the developments of children's advocacy centers, thank you, Meg, creating resources for parents, changing the conversation about sexual violence through the work with media, both traditional media as well as social media platforms that reach hundreds of thousands of individuals with messages that are shifting the way we think and talk about these issues. And finally, supporting Maine's severely under-resourced sexual assault prevention and support providers with training, support, and increased access to funding. Would my awesome staff please stand and be recognized? My board, past and present, is made up of the directors of Maine's sexual assault support centers and brings value to Micasa's work every day. Beyond inspiring and informing and participating in our collective statewide mission, they are running inspiring community-based nonprofits which collectively serve thousands of victims a year and reached over 60,000 school kids and community members last year in Maine with a prevention programming that will change Maine's future. Beyond that, they have been personal mentors and supported my ability to build this nonprofit, which I love, while also building a family and being a mother. An extraordinary gift. Sue Hall-Dreher, Kathy Walker, Marty McIntyre, Amy Stanley, Fatuma Hussein, Janine Wynn, Cindy Amato, would you all please stand? Woohoo! And yet, while there's so much to celebrate, we are living in a state where, like the rest of the country, sexual violence is still pervasive and is still supported by the seemingly insurmountable problems of sexism, racism, heterosexism, and classism. Today, 1 in 5 Mainers experience rape or attempted rape in his or her lifetime, and many, many more experience linked forms of sexual violence, such as sexual harassment, street harassment, and bias based on gender and sexual identity. We have to do more to address sexual violence head-on, as well as the many isms that allow it to continue to thrive. I have a young friend in the room who does not like me to tell stories about her in public, so I will not name her. But a couple of nights ago, she and I were talking at bedtime, and she told me that she keeps a list of things that she thinks should be erased. She shared that war and hurting other people, which was the early euphemism I used when I had to explain my work to, say, a 4-year-old, and racism were on the list. I explained that, in fact, we could erase war and hurting other people if we addressed racism and the other isms. My friend is inquisitive and thoughtful, so she followed it up and asked me to explain the other isms, which I proceeded to do. She was sad that people who had more money should treat people with less badly, but she had seen that. She found it hard to comprehend that her beloved LGBTQ family and friends would be the subject of discrimination. But she knew that some of the kids at school might not agree. She went to bed thinking about the ways to erase that list. When we change how people think about sexual violence and the many other kinds of oppression and injustice that are related, then we can change how people respond to them. We know that in Maine and across the country, people care about this issue and its impact on communities. Unlike in those early days, a recent Kaiser Family Foundation Washington Post poll of men and women, this was just released this month, identified reducing sexual and domestic violence as their top priority in order to improve the lives of women. This was over child care and health care and a number of things that, frankly, I thought would have scored higher. And this is both men and women part of the poll. But the challenge is to convert that concern into action. We must all take a leadership role in our own home or community or school, places of worship or business to meaningfully address sexual violence and its broader context of injustice. As an engaged bystander, as a parent, as a policymaker, as a supportive friend, as a visionary. Maine Sexual Assault Support Centers and my friends at Mikasa have tools to help everyone find their role. Join us and help others engage in this work to turn concern into action, because we believe we can end sexual violence, but can only do so through mass engagement. One final thank you, because I can't control myself, to both my blood and adopted family. I'm daily supported by my family, by my parents, John and Marianne Ward, swooping in to take Charlotte so I can participate in a legislative hearing or editing a draft when my staff is tied up, and of course for being my earliest supporters. Or my aunts and uncles for inspiring action through highlighting our nation's many inequities. Or my awesome neighbors who are always ready to step up and help with Charlotte and in any other way they can possibly manage. Or my sister Anne and my girls Tanya and Jen for keeping me centered. And finally, as you've already seen, I have an amazing partner and my husband Michael, who makes everything possible. He and my fabulous daughter Charlotte are the center of my world. I'm grateful that they have made room for Mikasa in it. Thank you.
Somehow, Elizabeth, I think this photo is going to follow you around for a while. So thank you all for coming today, for sharing this celebration with us of two extraordinary women that we are happy to induct into the Maine Women's Hall of Fame. If you haven't seen the photographs of the other inductees, I invite you to do so. And if I could ask the presenters of both awardees to stay for a little while afterwards so we can get some photographs, that would be lovely. Thank you again for coming, and thank you for sharing this work with our two inductees and with all of us. Have a good afternoon. Thank you.